It's not a mystery to me. The same thing that happened to my daughter is what happened to Whitney. There's only one person that was around both occasions.
You won't say his name. Nick Gordon is who you're referring to.
I won't say his name.
Including their... And Brown is pointing fingers tonight about the tragic loss of his daughter, Bobbi Kristina.
Few celebrity tragedies have captured the public's imagination, like the passing of Whitney Houston and her daughter, Bobbi Kristina Brown. There was something haunting about their similarly unsettling ends, both discovered unconscious in bathtubs under circumstances that many still question. It's a story that sparks countless theories. Did someone orchestrate these events? Or were they simply dark coincidences? Today we'll dive deep into those questions, exploring the rumors around key figures, including Nick Gordon, Ray J, and certain influential industry names, while unraveling the puzzling details that official reports never quite clarified.
What killed Bobbi Kristina?
Bobbi Kristina was starved to death.
Whitney Houston was without a doubt a musical icon with record-shattering achievements. Yet behind her stunning voice and chart-topping hits, she faced personal turmoil and tangled relationships that occasionally became tabloid fodder. One person was always in her orbit, her daughter Bobbi Kristina Chrissy Brown.
He knows what happened. I don't know what happened that night, but he does.
From infancy, Chrissy was in the public eye, sometimes appearing with her famous mom during interviews or joining her on stage at prestigious award ceremonies. She never had a typical childhood. Even as Whitney tried to protect her, Chrissy's life remained anything but ordinary. When her mother died in early 2012, Chrissy was left grieving and confused, expected to carry on Whitney's legacy while grappling with her own pain. Little did the world know that Chrissy's own story would echo her mother's tragic fate in the most unsettling way.
You walk through that door and you see her much like you saw Whitney.
It was literally, it was a nightmare all over again.
In February 2012, heartbreak reverberated across the globe when headlines announced Whitney had been found submerged and unresponsive in a Beverly Hilton hotel bathtub. Official accounts stated she drowned accidentally with certain substances discovered in her system. From the beginning, however, many people felt the story was incomplete. Observers noted conflicting information about Whitney's physical state leading up to her final moments, the small amount of water in her lungs, and lingering confusion over whether she truly had a medical event that caused her to lose consciousness. Then came the questions about who else was there. Some claimed Whitney seemed alert and was looking forward to upcoming events. Others hinted that she might have had a confrontation or argument shortly before her death. Names like Ray J emerged in speculation. He was known to be close to Whitney. Some suggested a romantic link, though both sides were coy about confirming it. Even more intriguing, Whitney passed a secretive note to Ray J's sister, Brandy, just before the end. Brandy's unwillingness to share what Whitney wrote only heightened the mystery. Not quite 3 years after Whitney's passing, an eerily similar event rocked the public once again. Chrissy was found unresponsive in a bathtub in her Georgia home, repeating the tragic pattern that had taken her mother. The parallels were immediately unmistakable, prompting people to wonder if there was more at play than coincidence. Authorities ruled that Chrissy's death was related to drowning with various substances in her system, but murmurs soon spread about her tumultuous relationship with Nick Gordon. Allegations surfaced that he controlled and isolated her, raising suspicions about his role. If Whitney's ending had fueled conspiracy theories, Chrissy's demise magnified them. Did she discover something about her mother's final day, and was she silenced because of it? Many believe that both cases share too many similarities to ignore, especially with certain people like Nick hovering in the background each time.
And her and Clive had a fight 2 days before. And from what I was told, Bobbi Kristina was present for some of that fight. And then the next thing you know, she's dead.
Nick Gordon had once been welcomed into Whitney's home as a teenager in need of support, eventually forging a bond with Chrissy that grew into romance. Their relationship drew criticism, partly because the public saw them as siblings under Whitney's care, and partly because Nick's behavior often raised eyebrows. Following Chrissy's hospitalization, her court-appointed conservator launched serious legal action against Nick, accusing him of manipulating and harming her both physically and emotionally. Bobbi Brown himself held firm to the belief that Nick Gordon carried responsibility on both Whitney's and Chrissy's passings. Court documents describe Nick giving Chrissy a toxic mixture before placing her face down in the bathtub. The claim was that he acted under false pretenses, posing as her husband to access money. Lawsuits hinted at a pattern of control and exploitation, portraying Nick as the man who stood to gain if Chrissy was isolated from family. Although Nick repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, the cloud of suspicion never left him. When he ultimately passed away a few years later, many felt the last key to unlocking the real story vanished with him.
I want the world to know that Bobbi Kristina did not die from the bathtub incident. That's not what killed Bobbi Kristina.
While Nick Gordon stood in the spotlight for his controversial role, Ray J was another name that wouldn't fade from public speculation. He'd been seen around Whitney before her death, but the specifics of his involvement remained murky. Some witnesses recalled Ray J rushing out of the Beverly Hilton the night she died, a detail that clashed with his statements about not being there. Meanwhile, Bobbi Brown's sister publicly alleged that Ray J might have helped Whitney obtain a bad batch of substances, intensifying questions about whether he inadvertently contributed to her death. Then there's that moment Whitney slipped a note to Brandy. Camera footage caught Whitney stepping into an interview with Clive Davis, Brandy, and Monica to hand Brandy something that looked important. Brandy, asked repeatedly about its contents, refused to comment. Opinions varied. Maybe it was a harmless message, or maybe it was a cry for help, revealing the truth about what Whitney was dealing with. Whatever it said, it remains locked away with Brandy, fueling speculation that it contained incriminating details Whitney wanted someone she trusted to safeguard. On top of these personal relationships, whispering circulated that even more influential players might have been involved. Clive Davis, a legendary executive who stood by Whitney's side throughout much of her career, was rumored to have had a heated disagreement with her not long before she died. Could that confrontation have contributed to mounting stress or indicated a deeper power struggle? Some accounts claim that Bobbi Kristina overheard intense arguments involving Whitney and important industry figures. Did she learn secrets her mother planned to reveal? Those who believe a larger plot was at work argue that Chrissy's knowledge made her a target. How else could they explain such identical tragedies unfolding just 3 years apart? In interviews, outspoken individuals like Jaguar Wright have pointed to behind-the-scenes manipulation in the music world, suggesting that Whitney's downfall may have been orchestrated by those with much to lose if she spoke out.
She was They saw her body. She didn't just die in a tub. Like, she was. Ray J was the last person to see her alive. He let the dealer in, but she was sober, right? But he let the dealer in that gave her the shot. Leola Brown, Bobbi Brown's sister, has said on several occasions that
two individuals from the same family, each found lifeless in a bathtub under suspicious circumstances. Some watchers immediately concluded there had to be foul play. Others argued that heartbreak and a cycle of substance problems might run in families, leading to parallel endings. Still, the parallels are striking. Both mother and daughter had arguments or alleged conflicts prior to their final hours. Both were discovered submerged in bathtubs, and both had known associates who kept changing their stories about what happened. Skeptics point out that had these incidents happened in isolation, maybe no one would question them. But the echoes are too loud for many to ignore, especially given the swirl of rumor and evidence that doesn't perfectly align with simple accidents. Every new detail that emerges about shady behavior or suspicious timing seems to amplify the feeling that an orchestrated plot might have been in play. Chrissy's father, Bobbi Brown, never hid his doubts about the official explanations. He publicly stated that he believed Nick Gordon was present and involved in both Whitney's and Chrissy's final chapters. To him, Gordon's track record, along with the lawsuits filed against him, pointed to one logical conclusion: foul play. For a time, Bobbi Brown pushed for more investigation, hoping to find evidence that would hold Gordon accountable. But with Nick's passing, the prospects of a full confession or a legal reckoning disappeared. Meanwhile, Gordon had accused Bobbi Brown of failing as a father, suggesting the blame should lie closer to home. That back and forth spat left outsiders unsure who to believe. It became a battle of narratives. One side depicting a manipulative partner who orchestrated tragic events for personal gain, and the other painting a father who, out of guilt and heartbreak, needed someone to point the finger at. Regardless of which angle people aligned with, the essential mysteries around how these two deaths really happened remained. Beyond the personal drama, there's a deeper undercurrent of conspiracies involving high-level figures who supposedly wanted to silence Whitney for fear she might reveal damaging truths about the industry. If Chrissy overheard or possessed proof of wrongdoing, whether financial exploitation, personal vendettas, or something else, she could have become a liability. In these theories, Nick Gordon is sometimes portrayed as a pawn rather than a mastermind, manipulated by people with the resources to cover up their tracks. These speculations stretch credibility for some, but in entertainment history, there's a precedent for shady dealings and hidden agendas. Documentaries and exposés have hinted at dangerous secrets in show business, fueling suspicions that these tragedies might be part of a broader pattern. The detail that Whitney died on the brink of an event hosted by someone she reportedly had tension with only encourages believers to keep digging for a bigger plot. After Chrissy's passing, Nick Gordon found himself haunted by lawsuits, condemnation from Bobbi Brown, and relentless media scrutiny. When he eventually OD'd and died in 2020, any chance of hearing a direct confession or seeing him refute allegations in a courtroom vanished instantly. People who suspected him of wrongdoing saw his death as the conclusion of a saga that tore the Houston Brown family apart. Others claim Nick never had the chance to prove his innocence and was demonized prematurely. Legally, no one has been found criminally responsible for Whitney's or Chrissy's deaths. Officially, Whitney's cause of death stands as an accidental drowning, and Chrissy's as a similar tragedy complicated by substances. The door to an alternate explanation remains open, however, as lawsuits like the one against Gordon pointed strongly to foul play, with the most central figures either gone or unwilling to reveal what they know. Every conspiracy, no matter how wild, remains theoretically possible. Years later, music fans still revere Whitney's unparalleled vocal range, and many lament Chrissy's lost potential. Both left the world too soon, and in ways that continue to raise eyebrows. The official narrative might say their deaths were unfortunate accidents tied to poor decisions, but repeated patterns like questionable bruises, notes passed in secret, alleged bad batches of substances, and swirling talk of powerful industry feuds have kept these stories alive in the public's mind. Some remain convinced there's more to it all, pointing to rumors of an ongoing cover-up. Others emphasize the heartbreak of generational tragedy, citing how substance misuse and emotional distress can devastate families regardless of fame. The tension between these interpretations is what keeps the debate going. Maybe a thorough investigation would have revealed a sinister plan, or maybe all the tragedies were the result of mental health challenges, addiction, and toxic relationships that nobody managed to halt in time. We may never have a final resolution to the question of whether Whitney Houston and Bobbi Kristina Brown fell victim to outside machinations, or if their passings were simply the bleak culmination of personal struggles. Each time new information surfaces, fresh witness accounts, newly revealed documents, or personal confessions, it reignites the speculation. Many supporters hold out hope that one day a startling piece of evidence might emerge to clarify why both mother and daughter died under such strikingly similar conditions. For now, the only certainty is that Whitney and Chrissy shared a bond, both in life and in the eerie circumstances of their deaths. Did Chrissy know too much about her mother's final hours? Did Nick Gordon, Ray J, or powerful industry figures play a larger role than people realized? Or is it possible we're seeing darkness where there was only an unspeakably tragic coincidence? The official record might be closed, but the mystery endures, inviting everyone to consider how deeply secrets can shape and possibly destroy even the brightest of stars. If you have thoughts or theories, be sure to share them. because the final word on these heartbreaking events remains as elusive as ever.